Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Tech Gala, and today we have Amartya with us. Amartya is building a startup that is valued over $7 million. In the last funding round, he raised over half a million dollar, and also he pays around 1 crore to all of his employees. Not only he is experienced software engineer where he worked with companies like Zeta, ShareChat, Airtel, but rather he is building a company that has got the attention of Y Combinator, and his company is YC backed. Now thinking of YC, YC is a startup seed accelerator. कहा जाता है जिस स्टार्टअप के ऊपर YC का हाथ होता है उसका सक्सेस रेशियो काफ़ी बढ़ जाता है, बिकॉज YC has over 100 companies that are valued over $1 billion. Companies like Airbnb, Coinbase, Razorpay, Stripe are all backed by YC. So in this podcast, we have discussed Amartya's early education life. Post that, we also dived into his job and why did he plan to leave his well-paid job and started building his own startup. He also shared about team building, what all things you should keep in mind if you are an entrepreneur. Everything you need to know, he has shared. So make sure to check out the timeline and watch accordingly. And at the last, he also shared a pro tip. So make sure not to miss that out. So let's get started.
I'm Amartya Jha. I'm the CEO of Codant AI. We at Codant AI help developers like you guys write flawless code which can scale beautifully, optimize beautifully, has no errors, basically has no issues in doc strings, unit testing, etc. So we abstract everything, and in a single click, you can generate this. Previously, starting to Codant AI, I was leading DevOps and infrastructure teams at companies like ShareChat and Zeta. I've scaled their infrastructure to handle hundreds of millions of requests, and always felt that we need to fix these problems like bad code. Every company is having that problem, but nobody's fixing it. How can we create a product around it? So, a couple of months back, me and my co-founder Chinmay Bharti. Chinmay is from IT Bombay, worked in an HFT, scaled a company. He left his job in Germany, joined me, and we started Codant AI. 3 months in, today we are funded by Y Combinator. We have raised more than $500,000. We have got couple of unicorn clients, and we would love to share the entire
That's a
journey
lot
with
for
you
a lot
guys.
of people because काफी लोगों से इसका आधा भी नहीं होता है and अपने इतने कम एज में इतना कुछ कर लिया है. Now talking a bit about your job life, like if you go to Amartya's LinkedIn, you will be seeing that he is from a tier 3 college. ऐसा नहीं कि वो IIT से थे जिसके लिए like everything was easy, like raising $500,000 is not a joke. तो आप जैसे जॉब स्टार्ट किए उससे पहले like what you studied in college, या फिर थोड़ा सा अगर आप रिकैप दे पाए.
Cool. When I started my college, I still remember I was in Kalusarai, Delhi. We were preparing for our IIT JEE exams, and my rank was so good that my brother told me that like 66,000 was my rank in VIT. So my brother told me कि इतना रैंक आता है क्या इतना इतना लोग बैठा था क्या VIT एग्जाम में. तो we were like shit इतना खराब है. One thing that I did in college was, so college life is pretty changing for anyone. So if you hustle in college, understand you're not going to college to learn anything, correct? Because teachers पढ़ा देंगे तुमको. What you have to do is, the moment you're entering college, you have endless possibilities. You have top-notch students there with you. These are your batchmates who will be ending up in Amazon, Flipkart, Microsoft, whatever it is. But right now, they are your peers. तुम उनके साथ उठ रहे हो, बैठ रहे हो, जो करना कर रहे हो. तो why can't you be active there, learn from them, basically create a startup there, try building something. So in very first year, I had this knack that I want to influence these people to work with me or for me, and let's build something together. So I tried a couple of startups there. We had a couple of success. So for example, we started Sanrakshak. At that point of time, we won around 23 national business plan competition. We were one of the hottest student tech startup run from India. We also represented India in German Indian Startup Connect. Only because as a founder, you always have to appreciate the talent. So I appreciated my co-founders. They were 10x more talented than me. And I didn't know shit. I can say that. Honestly. So they were 10x more talented. So you have to create that culture. And as you said, ki IIT tag, VIT tag doesn't matter a lot. So I'll tell you, my co-founder in Codant AI is an IITian. Okay, he has a background like you. It's like the creamiest IITian background. He's from IIT Bombay, worked in an HFT, got a German startup, German package. Basically, he was working in Berlin somewhere. All the three folks that he hired in our company, all three of them are IITians. Basically, two are from IIT Delhi, All India Rank 200, etc. That's why I'm saying it doesn't matter where you started. What matters is how much effort do you put in your initial years to make sure your skills are very sharpened. Once you're there, you can hire anyone. Correct. And I make sure that even the people who are working with me, I don't make sure that they feel that they're working for me. So there's a huge difference. Okay. So creating that culture that आप हम दोनों सेम जर्नी में सेम काम कर रहे हैं ठीक है एंड टैग डजंट मैटर ओनली थिंग दैट मैटर्स इज द शेयर डेडिकेशन दैट द पर्सन हैज इन हिज वर्क and coming to the job life, I'll quickly touch upon that. So just after college, I joined Sabre, and that was an interesting story altogether. I didn't land up the job there. I'll tell you, around 1,200 people sat on the job. They selected three. Out of three, two were gold medalist. CSE gold medalist, electrical electronics gold medalist. I was nowhere in the picture. Okay. But I got into it. I'll tell you how. So there was a Sabre hackathon which happened. All India. So I took these three friends, which I just talked about, and we went in that hackathon. We got All India rank 1. So, usme I asked the same guy, the VP who was there. I told him, boss, you guys came to VIT. You guys hired the top 1, 2, 3. I was obviously rejected in the first round. Can you give me an internship? Okay, which I can convert into PPO. I know that. He was like, एक interview लेंगे, आ जाओ. The next week I flew there. So the interviewer was actually the person जो एक दिन पहले जिसको पिच किया था. Honestly, उनका पूरा जैसा 20 लोग का टीम है जो जज कर रहा है हैकाथॉन के लिए. So he was one of those guys. So he just asked me कि क्या बनाया प्रोजेक्ट में. ठीक है. For 1 hour we just discussed that. I knew inside out because I was there when the product was building. There was no DSA question, etc. Simple थोड़ा बहुत पूछा and he was like, okay, come. So what I mean to say is, in life you will always not be able to go to a certain area with following specific paths. You have to charter your own paths. Similarly, same things will happen in your career. So you don't have to always look for career jumps. You have to look for how we can make or add some value to our lives.
Okay. So,
by doing something
like अगर हम आपका प्रोफाइल देखें LinkedIn में, it says that most of your work was around DevOps, right? And how did you actually land up being a DevOps engineer? Like अगर आप थोड़ा उस पे भी टच कर सकते हैं, because आजकल अगर आप ऐड देखते होंगे from GFG, it is mostly on कि DevOps engineer कैसे बने. But you being someone who have worked in the field, like how did it start for you? Like did you join in the developers team, or did you join in the operations team, or did you convert that, or how did it actually work for you?
So for me, one good thing happened was when I joined Sabre, I was actually hired as a developer, but I was assisting the main platform team of Sabre. So the thing was we were assisting the site reliabilities and DevOps guys, okay, and we were building software for them. So as and when we were building it, I felt that these guys are doing something very crazy. For example, these guys are scaling infrastructure to millions of requests. These guys are making sure our calls are parallel in nature. These guys are working on asynchronous programming. These guys are making sure our infrastructure is set up properly, networking is happening properly, security is there. So I just was intrigued by the depth of the problem that these guys were solving. And since I was creating software for these guys, I felt, why not learn these skills and complement with the software development things that I have learned and create a career out of it. So for 2 years in Sabre, we created a platform for them. Eventually, I fell in love with DevOps. So I thought, okay, let me pursue a career in DevOps. So I started interviewing. One very unique gap in the market is, if you look at the DevOps market, there's a huge difference between system administrators and Google SRE or Google DevOps, Site Reliability Engineering, what they call. So the difference is this: if you pick any system administrator, the amount of automation that he can bring onto the table is very less as compared to a Google SRE, correct? And in Sabre, the culture of Google SRE was huge. Okay, so everybody was taught in that manner that SRE or DevOps is nothing but a software engineer put in an operations role. So you have to have software engineering skills that you can build scalable infrastructures and code and apply that in a manner of DevOps. So this helped me a lot. What we did was basically when I did a switch, I joined ShareChat, and ShareChat has a huge scale. They had scale of 200, 300 million odd users, and the DevOps team was of just 10 people. And the problem statements was huge, like build the entire logging framework for 7 million requests, which is coming in. So there it was like very in-depth learning, which we got. So if I have to give advice to anyone, I'll say that don't think DevOps as a just system administrator thing where you just need to learn about Kubernetes, networking, storage, optimization, etc. Try to make sure that you have a very strong automation skill set also. If you can automate stuff with this knowledge, I'm telling you this, there's no bar for packages that you can crack. बिकॉज सॉफ्टवेयर का पैकेज एक बार जाके प्लाटो कर जाएगा, बट अगर आपके पास ये दोनों स्किल है, आपको स्केल करना आता है, ठीक है, और आपको कोड लिखना आता है अच्छा जो स्केल कर जाए, तो आपसे अच्छा कोई है नहीं. You won't believe I hired a person who's actually led DevOps of Amazon, and I hired him as a software developer. Why? Because क्यों, मुझे पता है उसने Amazon का स्केल देखा है, और Amazon अगर DevOps हायर कर रही है उसने कोडिंग में चेक किया उसका.
Correct. Now, like since हम DevOps के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, and majority of the focus when we are working with DevOps is left shift, right? Now let's focus on your right shift, that is switching from job to creating your own startup. Like ये thought process क्यों आया? Like I know, like you mentioned that college से आपका वो कीड़ा था startup वाला that kept growing in you with time, but people when they are settled down a bit, जैसे आप एक ढंग का पैकेज कमा रहे हो, लाइफ थोड़ा सेटल्ड हो जाता है, उसके बाद मैक्सिमम लोग रिस्क नहीं लेना चाहते, दे आर लाइक कि ठीक ही तो है यार, चल जाएगा. बट व्हाट मेड यू डू दैट?
Tell you this, ठीक है, when you reach a very comfortable stage, when you are earning 40, 50, 60 lakhs, okay, if you're earning that much in India, your life is pretty stable. All my friends are actually in that bracket, basically, who are there, they're earning somewhere between 50 to 60 lakhs. They are in good companies, doing decent work, and they're happy in their life. You don't have to take risk at that moment. Why? Because your family thinks that you're 24, 25, somewhere settled, your job is good enough, having a better work-life balance, you're getting time to spend with your friends, everything is happening pretty good. But one thing is always there. If you have to add a value, not just to your wealth, but to your learning, you have to get out of this. I'll tell you why. Because तुम अगर 50 लाख कमा रहे हो आज, तुम 50 लाख से, I'll tell you this is my personal experience, तुम ग्रोथ करके 1 CR तक नहीं जा पाओगे, ठीक है. मेरा 3.5 years एक्सपीरियंस है. तुम 50 से 60 जाने में भी टाइम लग जाएगा, एक साल लग जाएगा. 60 से 70, 80 जाने में एक साल लग जाएगा, 1 या 2 साल लग जाएगा, ठीक है. और बड़े स्टार्टअप्स में जाओगे तो और थोड़ा और कम होगा, ठीक है. I'm talking about base pays and whatever in that manner I'm talking about, I'm not adding equity, etc. So the problem here is this, कि अगर आपको wealth लेना है, ठीक है, wealth can't come out of a job, it will automatically stagnate, okay, after one juncture. Second, if you have to learn exponentially as in tech में तो आप learn कर लोगे, ठीक है, but you have to learn how this tech is built, what kind of value proposition it is giving to the end user, and how that end user is capitalizing on that. Okay? If you understand this entire value chain, then you will be able to make sure कि मुझे ये भी सीखना है, मुझे ये भी सीखना है, ठीक है. तो इसमें लगेगा जो आपका जॉब है वो आपको रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर रहा है कि मेरे को बस इंजीनियरिंग एंड से ही देखना है, मुझे बिजनेस एंड नहीं देखना है, मुझे सेल्स एंड नहीं देखना है, मुझे फंडिंग एंड नहीं देखना है, मुझे गो टू मार्केट नहीं देखना है, ठीक है. तो रिस्ट्रिक्ट हो गए, ठीक है. तो अब 2 प्रॉब्लम है, सॉल्व कैसे कर सकते हो, या तो खुद का बनाओ. तो जनरली आई सी लॉट ऑफ people who have थोड़ा सा कीड़ा, तो what they'll do is they'll start becoming indie hackers, ठीक है, कुछ लॉन्च कर दिया, साइड प्रोडक्ट कर लिया. तो what I feel with that is, जब तक जॉब ना छोड़ी ना आपने, ठीक है, तब तक वो अंदर से कन्विक्शन नहीं आता कि बॉस लगी पड़ी है, कल तक मैं 50 कमा रहा था, आज 0 कमा रहा हूँ, ठीक है. जब तक ये हिट नहीं होता है ना, तब तक प्रोडक्ट बनता नहीं है. और मैं खुद से बोल रहा हूँ, जब बेरोजगार हो जाओगे तब लगेगा कि नहीं अब तो बनाना है, कि घर वाले बोलेंगे, सब लोग बोलेंगे, ठीक है, तो अंदर से हिट करेगा. बनाना है, मैंने सेम काम किया था. कन्विंसिंग फैमिली इज ऑल्सो डिफिकल्ट दैट टाइम कि व्हाई आर यू डूइंग दैट. ठीक है, एंड आई टेल यू दिस इज अ वेरी हार्ड ट्रूथ. राइट नाउ वी हैव रेज मोर देन half a million, and our valuation is also pretty good. But the problem is, for next, I think I can say for 12 months or 18 months, I won't be earning anything comparable to what I was earning back in my when I was working. B, engineers whom I'm hiring, they are earning 4x than what I'm earning. क्योंकि इंजीनियर तो मैं आईआईटी से लेके आ रहा हूँ ना, वो एचएफटी से आ रहा है. अगर उसको मैं पैसा नहीं दूंगा वो तो चला जाएगा. करेक्ट. विजन कितना ही बेचोगे, उसको मैं अगर 4x दे रहा हूँ तो मैं खुद x या x से कम ले रहा हूँ. ठीक है, तो ये लॉन्ग टर्म गेम प्लान खेलना है. और क्यों करना है? ऑब्वियसली कि मुझे वेल्थ लॉन्ग टर्म में चाहिए, लर्निंग लॉन्ग टर्म में चाहिए, एंड आई डोंट वांट टू स्टैग्नेट इन दिस इंजीनियरिंग मैनेजर रोल. और इंजीनियरिंग मैनेजर तो बहुत दूर है. आई वाज अ सीनियर इंजीनियर. आई डोंट वांट टू स्टे इन सीनियर लीड मैनेजर रोल. इसको एक्सपोनेंशियली ग्रो करना है. दैट कैन ओनली कम व्हेन यू स्टार्ट समथिंग ऑफ योर.
तो जैसे काफी लोग काफी आइडिया लेके आते हैं टेबल में, जैसे आपने बोला बहुत लोग सोचे होंगे, बट इन योर केस हाउ डिड यू फेल्ट? जैसे आपने प्रॉब्लम रियलाइज किया, एंड आई हैव सीन दैट यू आस्क्ड पीपल कि उनके कंपनीज में भी सेम इश्यूज हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा, बट व्हेन वाज अ पॉइंट व्हेन यू रियलाइज दैट इट वाज अ प्रोडक्ट मार्केट फिट आपका हो रहा है, या फिर दिस इज द आइडिया दैट यू वांट टू वर्क ऑन एंड यू टुक द रिस्क? बिकॉज रिस्क तो था, राइट? इट इज नॉट कि रिस्क नहीं था एंड आपने बोला, बट रिस्क था. एंड हाउ डिड यू रियलाइज कि चलो ये एक प्रोडक्ट है जो मैं बना रहा हूँ, या फिर दिस इज माई विजन ऑफ लाइक एज ऑफ नाउ आई बिलीव कि यू हैव अचीव्ड से 1% or 2% what you have thought of, maybe you are planning a lot more to do, but वही यही जो मैं बना रहा हूँ उसको लेके ही मेरा चल जाएगा. And you, how did you realization come from?
So there are two things in that. You mentioned a very good word, which is product market fit. So those who will be watching, they'll be thinking that we have hit a product market fit. I would say that around 95% of the startups never hit product market fit in their entire life. More than 60% of Series A to B startup fail even after raising a very hefty round. Okay, product market fit is, as founders say, it is like तुमने ऐसा प्रोडक्ट बना दिया है जिससे तुम्हारे चेक इन अकाउंट में पैसे आए जा रहे हैं, लोग खरीदे जा रहे हैं. ठीक है, ऐसा नहीं हुआ है अभी. ठीक है, बट आई टेल यू व्हाई वी स्विच्ड एंड व्हाई वी स्टार्टेड बिल्डिंग ऑन टू इट. सो it I always say to any developer or anyone who is building a product that the first idea that you're picking should come from your personal experience, that you have experienced it somewhere, your friends have experienced it, your mentors have experienced it, or you're seeing it around you. Okay, and you're seeing it so bad that even in the worst condition, which is like a MVP, people want it badly and they can pay for it. Okay, so for us it was coming from a personal thing that people are writing shittiest code. I am reviewing 40 PRs a day in my previous role, where people are shipping bad code, not just about that company. Every company where I worked, all of them are very well-known people, actually fight to get into those companies. I feel the code is not good enough. Okay, scalability, optimization is not even there. Basic thing like docstring, unit testing, modularity is missing. And engineering teams, engineering managers, directors give a lot of shit, and we ourselves give a lot of shit about this. So why don't we have a product for this? Can we build it? And this is one aspect. Second aspect is, who will be your co-founder? I'll tell you this. देखो, जब भी कंपनी बना रहे हो ना, वो डेवलपर टूल्स में बना रहे हो. ठीक है, तो understand like this. I am a consumer of this product. Actually, if someone was giving me this product, I would have given it to my team members and we would have used it. But we were not getting this product in the first place. Okay? And that's why we want to build it. Second, अगर कोई भी बंदा DevTools बना रहा है, I'll suggest this thing. DevTools बनाना is not easy. Okay? And imagine like this, whom you are selling to. You're selling to engineering managers, VPs of engineering. Correct? कोई इंजीनियरिंग मैनेजर होगा, कोई टेक वीपी रहा होगा, वो कभी ना कभी तो डेवलपर रहा ही होगा. करेक्ट, उसने डेवलपमेंट किया ही होगा. और बहुत इंजीनियरिंग मैनेजर्स, बहुत वीपीज अब बहुत ज़्यादा इन्वॉल्व होते हैं कोडिंग डिसीजंस में. ठीक है, दीज आर योर कस्टमर्स. इफ यू हैव लेड टीम्स प्रीवियसली, तो यू कैन एक्चुअली इन्विसाज कि ये इंजीनियरिंग मैनेजर क्या सोच रहा होगा, ये वीपी ऑफ इंजीनियरिंग क्या सोच रहा होगा, इसको क्या बेच सकते हैं. तो इट बिकम्स वेरी इजी फॉर मी टू टेक दैट रोल. ठीक है. ए. बी, आई हैव वेरी डीप टेक बैकग्राउंड. करेक्ट. I can actually create a very good product guideline architectures. Okay. And I talked about Chinmay. Chinmay is a very deep tech person. He worked in an HFT. He has a great background in tech. He can implement anything. He can build anything like this. If I can charter कि क्या बनाना है और ये बंदा ऐसे बना दे तो अपन बेच सकते हैं. तुम्हें स्टार्टिंग में बेचने के लिए कोई नहीं चाहिए. हमेशा याद रखो, कोई भी स्टार्टअप बना रहे हो, अगर until unless it's D2C और समथिंग B2B SaaS में किसी और को ही बेच रहे हो जहाँ पे तुम्हारा एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है, इसलिए बोला कि अपने एक्सपीरियंस पे बनाओ. अगर खुद प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर हो और प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर को ही बेचना है तो तुम्हें सेल्स की बंदे की जरूरत नहीं है. तुम्हें पता है तुम्हें किस लैंग्वेज में बात करनी है. अगर तुम खुद डेवलपर हो, तुमको इंजीनियरिंग मैनेजर को बेचना है तो तुम्हें पता है किस लैंग्वेज में बात करनी है, बिकॉज यू डिड दैट ऑन अ डे टू डे बेसिस. ओके. सो यू यूज द सेम लैंग्वेज and you the guy who can actually build a world class product. For me that's Chinmay. And I took the role of selling it because I can actually convey कि क्या बेचना है. So that is there.
Okay, and also like I feel
yeah.
since you have funding, right? But आपने टीम को बहुत बड़ा नहीं किया. You kept it small. So that is also quite important कि टीम छोटा रखना important होता है. Like, and I heard this a lot of time. But why do you feel the same? Like, is it easy to manage or like what?
So I'll tell you this कि ये सिंपल सा एक कंडीशन है कि जब दो लोग बात करते हैं तो कम्युनिकेशन बस दो लोगों में. जब तीन लोग बात करते हैं तो कम्युनिकेशन में एक गैप है. चार लोग बात करते हैं और गैप है. ठीक है. स्मॉल स्टेज स्टार्टअप्स में all the time you have to make sure that there is as less as conflict as possible in terms of ideas, in terms of thought, in terms of execution. You don't want to delay stuff which these big techs do, that they have 20 different meetings to understand the PRD, to create a PR, to have architecture diagrams, discussions on top of it, etc. You just need boss बनाना है,
Okay.
रेडी होना चाहिए, रेडी करो. ठीक है. तो इसमें 10 लोग आएंगे तो और कॉम्प्लेक्स ही होगा. और टीम बहुत लीन रखी है. टेक अभी जाके 3 हुई है बहुत रिसेंटली, और 3 अभी भी हुई नहीं है, 2 है. एक तो अभी 6-7 दिसंबर को ज्वाइन करेंगे. सो वो भी अभी इसलिए रेस किया कि अभी फंड रेस किया. वी आर गोइंग टू सैन फ्रांसिस्को फॉर नेक्स्ट 3 to 4 months, probably more than that, both the founders. So we need someone to build in India because the time zones are also different and we want the product taste to go very high. We're also planning to raise our next round pretty soon, and that's why we are trying to go and do this. And as we selected in Y Combinator, we have to make sure that we use most out of it. Not a lot of Indian startups get selected. It's very handful of them, and it's very competitive. We are fortunate enough that we got selected this time. So for that, we have to maximize our efforts, and that's why we hired. If that wouldn't have happened, I don't think I would have hired anyone. So that is one. Second, make sure that whosoever you are hiring, अगर प्रोडक्ट जो बना रहा है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल चिन्मय में नहीं है, अगर वो इस लेवल पे है, जो तो नेक्स्ट बंदा लेके आओगे वो इसके लेवल पे होना चाहिए, इसके ऊपर होना चाहिए. ठीक है. दिस इज व्हाट वी कॉल एज बार सेटिंग. कि अगर मैंने कंपनी का बार सेट कर दिया, फॉर एग्जाम्पल 90 है करेंटली हायरिंग टैलेंट का, आई विल मेक श्योर दैट द नेक्स्ट एम्प्लॉय हु इज कमिंग टू द कंपनी इज ईदर 91 or 90. Never let the bar go down. So that's why we spent huge amount of time recruiting and doing that. But yeah, try to keep it as lean as possible. Okay. And there's a very good saying by Paul Graham, who is the founder of Y Combinator. It goes like, starting में तुमको वही काम करना है जो स्केल नहीं करेगा. खुद से बनाना है, स्क्रैपी वर्जन शिप करना है, खुद से बेचना है, तुम सब कुछ तुम्हें खुद ही करना है. ठीक है. तो डोंट रिलाई ऑन हायरिंग पीपल. मेक श्योर दैट यू बिल्ड समथिंग फर्स्ट. अगर खुद बनाया है कुछ तो लोगों को समझाने में easy है.
उसकी बातें कर रहे हैं कि क्या बनाना है क्या नहीं बनाना है. So let's discuss more about Coda and TIE. Like, you guys are using AI, so how is it like? Are you building your own in-house AI models, or you are using some sort of external services or anything else? Or exactly करता क्या है? And since you mentioned a couple of times, it is by developers for developers, right? So how is it also helping developers? Maybe if you can touch it as well. And अगर आपको मन करे, you can showcase the product, or maybe I will include one of your videos over here.
What is Codant AI basically? So if you're a developer, you will relate that industries में problem बस 3-fold है. ये 10 साल पहले भी थी, ये आज भी है, एक 10 साल बाद भी रहेगी। क्या है सबसे पहला प्रॉब्लम कि जब भी कोड लिखो तो उस कोड का लेटेंसी कम होना चाहिए, ठीक है, वो फास्ट रन करना चाहिए, फर्स्ट पॉइंट। सेकेंड पॉइंट कि कोड रिसोर्स कम खाए, विच इज सीपीयू इन मेमोरी, ठीक है। थर्ड पॉइंट क्या है कि कोड स्केल कर जाए। अगर कोड अभी आज लिखा है बट मेरे पूरे एप्लीकेशन पे 1 मिलियन का ट्रैफिक आता है, 1 मिलियन रिक्वेस्ट पर मिनट आता है, तो इस एपीआई भी 1 मिलियन रिक्वेस्ट पर मिनट पे स्केल कर जाए। ये 3 प्रॉब्लम है, विच इज लेटेंसी, रिसोर्स एंड स्केलेबिलिटी। These 3 problems were there 10 years ago also, it's there today also. So the point is how we can solve this. Okay? That's when we born Codant AI. Codant AI, you asked what kind of AI models we are using. So my founder is actually an AI expert. He did his minors there. He actually worked and scaled an AI company previously, which is serving currently one of the India's largest D2C brands. So we have used an open source models and we have fine tuned them. So अभी क्या होता है कि we have AI which scans your code, understand the code flow first. Second, we have written our own rule based engines, let's say 600 odd rule based engines. इसका काम क्या है कि कोड मान लो मैंने डिटेक्ट किया कि इसको एसिंग करना था या इसको पैरेलल प्रोग्रामिंग करना था, इसमें मेरे को रीट्राई डालना था, ठीक है, ये मेरे एआई ने बताया। तो ये जो डालने वाली चीज़ है मैं एआई से नहीं कराता हूँ। क्यों? क्योंकि एआई हेलुसिनेट करती है हमेशा, ठीक है। इमेजिन लाइक दिस, इफ यू आर राइटिंग कोड यू कैन बी रॉन्ग 30 to 40% ऑफ द टाइम। डेवलपर्स को फर्क नहीं पड़ता, उसको पता है बॉयलर प्लेट कोड है। बट जब तुम डेवलपर को बोलो कि बॉस मैं आपका कोड ऑप्टिमाइज कर रहा हूँ या स्केल कर रहा हूँ, तो डेवलपर को लगता है कि तुम हमेशा 100% करेक्ट होने चाहिए। तुम थोड़ा भी गलत करोगे तो आई डोंट ट्रस्ट यू मैन, सीरियसली, ठीक है। तो दैट्स वाई वी यूज रूल बेस्ड इंजन्स। तो एआई पहले जाके कोड फ्लो समझता है, देन वी हैव रूल बेस्ड इंजन्स जो आपको एक्यूरेट फिक्सिंग देता है, ठीक है। दिस इज व्हाट वी हैव गिवन फॉर अ कम्युनिटी थिंग which is live in VS Code, PyCharm, IntelliJ, etc. More than 500 developers from Zeta, Razorpay, Urban Company, etc. using them. Now what we're selling to enterprises is, if you would have used any monitoring tool for that matter, what we can do is we can directly get attached to this monitoring tool and try to understand कि बॉस तुम्हारी कंपनी में, हर कंपनी का बेसिक रूल है था कि 20% जो एपीआई है ना वो 80% ऑफ ट्रैफिक लेके आती है हर कंपनी में। जेनरिकली 20% एपीआई 80% ट्रैफिक लेके आएगी। अगर मैं इस 20% एपीआई को आपके मॉनिटरिंग टूल से निकाल लूँ कि उस पर लेटेंसी क्या है, सीपीयू क्या है, मेमोरी क्या है, एरर रेट क्या है, ठीक है, ये मैट्रिक्स निकाल लूँ, उसको एआई को दे दूँ, एआई फाइंड कर ले और रूल बेस्ड इंजन से फिक्स करा दूँ, पीपल आर हैप्पी, ठीक है। दिस इज व्हाट वी आर डूइंग विद द पेड पायलट्स दैट वी आर रनिंग विद दीज यूनिकॉर्न्स। So this is the product. I would love to see a lot of more developers coming in because it's a free tool for developers. It's lifetime free for developers. Only we are charging to enterprises because there we get directly attached to the CI, etc. So I would not try to sell the product right now, but I would love developers coming, onboarding, giving me the feedback. If you hate it, tell me. We'll improve it.
Is it also language based as of now, like what you said? Like,
So right now we are live in Python, JavaScript, Node.js, TypeScript. We are launching for Java and Rust. Java will be launched by end of next week, and
Okay.
subsequent week will be launched.
because you know most of the companies, if you talk about traditional companies, like for example I am currently working for Wells Fargo, and if you think for that, they are using Java and it has not been touched. Like it is, we are just adding the code. So majority of the companies that I have seen, if you talk about traditional companies that has been running for years and years, they don't actually want to touch the code and they just want कि जो ऐसा है चलने दो. But I had one of my friend working with Redbus, and he said कि उनका एक बंदा आया था and तुरंत वो लोग चेंज मार दिए. They were using Java and they shifted to Erlang. तो ये ट्रेडिशनल कंपनीज के बारे में आपका कैसा अप्रोच रहेगा? Like how are you planning with them?
Traditional companies are actually there. We call them cash cows. So what do you mean by cash cow? Is basically a company which is slow moving but is sitting on a lot of cash that they can give it to you. Correct. The problem statement is still valid for them. It's even huge for them. Correct. And they won't be moving from the tech stack, whatever they have established. Okay. So launching for Java is that fix for us. If you can stabilize your product for Java, it opens the entire enterprise market. Now, coming to your question, it's always correct. Whenever you see a startup, one thing about all the startup is the agility. Every startup is pretty agile how they work. अगर मुझे कुछ अच्छा लग रहा है, मुझे पता चल रहा है कि एसिंक्रोनाइज करना है और मुझे पता है नोड में एसिंक्रोनाइज बाय डिफॉल्ट मिलता है, तो क्यों ना मैं पूरा कोड इस नोड में कर दूँ. और स्टार्टअप में सबको होता है ठीक है 2 हफ्ते में लाइव करते हैं. तो दैट्स द शेयर डेडिकेशन दैट दीज गाइज हैव कि बॉस अपने को कस्टमर सेंट्रिक रहना है, तुरंत शिफ्ट करना, नहीं तो कोई और कर जाएगा. In bigger enterprises who have actually bigger clients and actually the cash cows, and you can say legacy companies, not legacy but cash cows, for them it's like stability matters a lot. You can't move from system A to system B without doing a proper assessment on what all areas you have to first fix, make sure it's working fine, etc., before even you take an action. So for us, it'll be making sure we go where they are, basically, which is Java.
So
and
अगर हम
launch
बहुत
something.
सिंपली आपके प्रोडक्ट को समझे, so you are solving 3 things as of now. एक तो time complexity of any code that has been written. Secondly, it is the space optimization. You are optimizing the space of memory space, CPU utilization. And thirdly, it is working on latency part. So अगर हम इस 2 चीज़ को थोड़ा समझने का ट्राई करें, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैंने एक सिंपल कोड फोर्सेस का प्रॉब्लम उठाया, तो मैंने उसको जब सॉल्व मारा, मेरा TLE हिट हो गया, दैट इज टाइम लिमिट एक्सीडेड. सो आई नीड टू ऑप्टिमाइज द कोड. नाउ इफ आई रन योर पर्टिकुलर एक्सटेंशन इन VS कोड, सो वो मेरा रिड्यूस करके देगा लाइक ऑप्टिमाइजेशन, लाइक विल इट बेसिकली सिंपल भाषा में विल इट ऑप्टिमाइज द टाइम फॉर मी और नॉट.
Yeah, exactly. That's the layer one. कि इसको ऑप्टिमाइज कैसे करोगे, डेटाबेस कनेक्शन कैसे हैंडल करोगे, कोड का कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी कैसे कम करोगे, दैट इज लेयर वन. ठीक है, एनी गुड इंजीनियर विल बी एबल टू डू दैट. What is layer two? Layer two is like when you are working in a code which has to scale, you just care about these 7 problems, and this will comprise 80%: pagination, caching, rate limiting, retry, failure retry, basically exponential backoffs, input output validation, and making sure unit testing is there. These 7 things, if you're able to capture, you're able to capture your entire scalability piece. And then comes the third layer, which is latency. How do we make sure कि अगर अभी इस कोड को रन करने में, जैसे आपने बताया एक फंक्शन लिखा आपने, उसको रन करने में लग रहा है 200 milliseconds, हाउ कैन आई गेट इट डाउन टू 100 milliseconds? फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपने नॉर्मल सा API कॉल किया पाइथन में, जिसमें लिख दिया डॉट रिक्वेस्ट, ठीक है, रिक्वेस्ट डॉट गेट. अब ये जो रिक्वेस्ट लाइब्रेरी आपने यूज़ करी है, ये सिंक्रोनस लाइब्रेरी है. ठीक है, ये क्या करता है, ये आपके थ्रेड्स को ब्लॉक कर देता है. कभी भी ब्लॉकिंग कॉल्स नहीं लिखो, async calls लिखो. You can change this into AI or HTTP, correct? And make sure the calls blocking ना हो, आपका thread pools अच्छे से काम करे, event loops अच्छे से काम करे. So these are the learnings that you get when you become senior SD3 or a staff engineer. You get these kind of learnings which are very intrinsic. ठीक है, और junior developer को पता नहीं है. ठीक है, उसको बस पता है कि बॉस शिप करना, तुरंत शिप करो. तो ये लर्निंग्स हम उठा के आपको तुरंत दे देते हैं, तो यू डोंट हैव टू वरी अबाउट इट. So in a single click you will be able to do that. Third, we add lot other things which developer feel is a grunt work. Documentation नहीं लिखना मेरे को, मुझे नहीं समझ रहा, एक क्लिक करो पूरा कोड का डॉक्यूमेंट हो जाएगा. यूनिट टेस्ट नहीं लिखना मेरे को, क्यों लिखूँ मैं, एक क्लिक करो यूनिट टेस्ट आ जाएगा विद एज केसेस. एक क्लिक करो पाइथन में टाइप हिंट नहीं लिखा मैंने, एक क्लिक में पूरा पाइथन का टाइप हिंट आ जाएगा उस पर्टिकुलर कोड का, यू कैन अप्लाई. एक क्लिक में यू कैन मेक श्योर कि आपका जो 500 लाइन का कोड है वो मॉड्यूलर चंक्स में ब्रेक हो जाए, लॉजिकल चंक्स में, एंड विच कैन बी रीयूज लेटर. सो लॉट ऑफ स्टफ दैट सीनियर इंजीनियर माइट बी नोइंग एंड जूनियर इंजीनियर मे और मे नॉट नो, वी abstract it and fix it for them.
So like as आपने mention किया था, and since the majority of the podcast should have been based on YC, and so उसके बारे में थोड़ा बात करते हैं. And सबको पता है कि like ज़्यादा लोग नहीं लेते हैं YC, they select handful of people. And you being that handful of people, and trust me, I don't know if you'll believe me or not, पूरे YouTube में एक single podcast नहीं है where a YC founder talks about his journey to YC. So first of all, जिनको नहीं idea है, आप थोड़ा सा अगर YC के बारे में बता दें, and then we can talk about bit more उनके incubation process है, फिर अगर आपके interview rounds हुए थे.
So we start with the program. What is Y Combinator? As they are called as YC. So the biggest companies of the world that you know today, let's say Airbnb, Stripe, Dropbox, Cruise, OpenAI, Instacart, Razorpay, Meesho, any company that you have heard till now, all of them are YC backed startups. Okay, YC has funded more than 4,000 companies. They have $600 billion in valuation, these companies. Even your ChatGPT is funded by YC. Sam Altman was the president of Y Combinator for a very long period of time. So, what is YC? It's a forum which is in San Francisco, USA, where they train founders. It's actually not a school, but they train founders what not to do. Actually, coming to our journey, this was my fourth application to Y Combinator. The selection rate is less than 1% globally. So imagine top founders applying for this, the best of the best throughout the world, and only 1% of them is getting selected. And those who are getting selected right now, they get a very good deal. The deal is already mentioned in their website. That's Y Combinator. For us, how did it went? So we filled that application. The application process is pretty intense. We spend a good amount of time writing that application, rewriting it, making sure it is correct, making sure the product is correct, and then submitting it. Then we got a call for an interview. It's a very short 10 minutes interview, and it is done by the best of the best. For example, the co-founder of Twitch, the co-founder of Enzo Bank, etc., etc. They'll interview you, and if you're good, they'll select you. So that's 10 minutes of IC, but this can actually change your entire career of your basically startup journey. Why? Last year, you see only less than 10 companies were selected from India from IC. Some of the biggest companies of biggest valuation from India have come from Y Combinator. Some of the biggest world companies have come from Y Combinator. So it adds a lot of value. That's why.
Okay, and since आपने mention किया, like काफी लोग mention नहीं करते, they are like कि भाई एक ही बार में तो हम select हो गए थे. But since you mentioned about your failures as well, so like if someone is applying, so is it they like this clarity के लिए क्या वो बस tech startups को incubate करते हैं या फिर it can be anything?
No. So you go and check YC, and they have startup directory. So you'll be able to see all the startups that they have funded in last, I'm not sure, 13 years, or I'm not, way more than that actually. 2004, so they are funding. So way more than that. I'm not even sure about the dates. So they don't fund just tech startups. They fund startups all around the world. Only thing is that you need to have a very clear understanding of who your customer is. What are you selling? Why are you selling? Are you the best people in the world to build it? Why are you the best people, honestly? And do you think this product can actually become the next $1 billion company? These 4 to 5 metrics are there. You need to hit out, basically clear this out. Obviously, YC सिलेक्शन किसी का एक बार में हो जाए बहुत रेयर है, ठीक है. मेरा तो चौथी बार में हुआ. आई एम प्रीटी हैप्पी. आई हैव सीन फ्रेंड्स जिनका 12 बार दे दिया, अभी तक नहीं हुआ है. मतलब इट्स लाइक साल में 2 बार आता है, तो 6 साल से दिए जा रहे हैं. So it's pretty hard, but the good thing is YC just, if you know your customers better, if you have a good product which your people want and you know their needs, you can actually make into YC. For us, what worked was we were building something that we knew inside out, which is in developer space. B, we were solving something where we already had developers using us, and we had metrics to show. And we also had few clients who were using us by that time, some of the very big clients. So that worked for us. That's Y Combinator. Our journey is going to start from here onwards. A batch is starting in January. So we are going to SF from January to March till March or April. We'll be there in San Francisco. So I'll be sharing our journey, how it goes.
वैसे बहुत बड़ा deal है, and since as अमरत्या ने mention किया 4,000, that is not for only tech startup. That is सारा मिला के 4,000 था. And recently, अगर आप डायरेक्टली भी चेक करो तो this season they are only focusing, I would say majority of the focus is on AI based startup. So I hope you also, if you are willing to go for YC incubation, you get it. So अगर आप कुछ गलतियाँ बोले, maybe 1 or 2 mistakes that you felt where the reason कि आप select नहीं हो पाए थे, वो क्या होगा?
few things is not having clarity what you're building. Because the people who are reviewing your application, these are actually billionaires or actually have created a $1 billion company. No one interviews, no one reads your profile is actually not a credible person. So जो आपका एप्लीकेशन पढ़ रहा है या तो उसने $1 बिलियन कंपनी बनाई है या वो खुद बिलियनियर है आज के डे में, ठीक है? तो दे आर वेरी वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग पीपल हु नो व्हाट यू हैव रिटन, दे कैन अंडरस्टैंड एंड रिलेट टू इट. फर्स्ट लेवल जो स्क्रीनिंग होता है, ठीक है? तो few mistakes that I would have done previously, it can be not understanding my customer better, whom I am selling to, not understanding whether whatever I'm selling is having a business angle to it. Okay. For example, I remember I had a startup when I was in Sabre. I was working on a startup with my friend called Campus Media. We were trying to do a social media for campuses. We had couple thousand users. It's still live, I believe. 900 some users still there. I'm not sure if you're using. I'm really sorry. We have stopped the support of it long back. So ऐसे स्टार्टअप आइडियाज जहाँ पे पता है कि स्केल नहीं कर पाएगा, ठीक है, या सॉलिड बिजनेस प्लान नहीं है, सॉलिड को फाउंडर्स का वो नहीं है, फॉर एग्जांपल बैकग्राउंड नहीं है, ठीक है, तो अब तो रिजेक्शन पक्का है आपका, ठीक है? या आपका 2-3 साल से बना रहे हो, 3 साल से सेम आइडिया अप्लाई कर रहे हो, बट उस आइडिया में अभी तक कोई ट्रैक्शन नहीं आया, शॉर्ट नो है, 3 साल में नहीं आया, आगे क्या आएगा, ठीक है? तो यू हैव टू बी वेरी क्रिस्प अबाउट व्हाट इज वन थिंग दैट यू नो अबाउट ए यूजर दैट नो वन एल्स इन द वर्ल्ड नोज अबाउट इट, क्योंकि उसी पर ना कंपनी बनाओगे. अगर मुझे पता है डेवलपर को ये चीज़ चाहिए और ये चीज़ मैं ऐसे दे सकता हूँ, तभी मेरे पास आज 550 से ऊपर डेवलपर्स है और हर दिन डेवलपर्स ऐड होते जा रहे हैं. मेरे पास 2 से 3 यूनिकॉर्न कंपनीज प्रोडक्ट अभी ट्राई और यूज़ कर रही है, क्योंकि मुझे पता है वो एक सोर्स, स्मॉल सा सीक्रेट सोर्स क्या है जो मैं डाल सकता हूँ, विच इज़ यूनिक इनसाइट दैट वी कॉल, दैट वी हैव अबाउट द प्रोडक्ट. इफ आई हैव दैट, आई कैन एक्चुअली एस इट. इफ आई डोंट हैव दैट, then there's no difference between you and 1,000 other startups who are solving the same exact problem. Correct? So YC looks for that unique insight, and that unique insight comes from your founder's background. कि founders ने अपनी लाइफ में क्या किया है, उनके लाइफ में ऐसा कुछ हुआ है क्या? मेरे जो बैकग्राउंड है वो है ही स्केलेबिलिटी एंड ऑप्टिमाइजेशन में, मैंने काम ही वही किया है, मेरे को फाउंडर ने वही काम किया है. तो अपन ने बैठ के वो देखा है पूरा जर्नी, अपने को पता है किधर क्या प्रॉब्लम है, कैसे सॉल्व करना है, तो उसको एप्लीकेशन में अच्छे से लिख दो, तो यू माइट गेट एन इंटरव्यू. सो इंटरव्यू इज लाइक, इंटरव्यू सिलेक्शन इज ओनली 10% लोगों का होता है. फिर इंटरव्यू से आगे दे अनदर मेक इट इवन हार्डर फॉर लेट्स से ओनली 1% ऑफ पीपल और लेसर देन दैट गेट इनटू फाइनल स्टेज.
काफी डिस्कशन हुआ, सो थैंक्स अ लॉट ऑन दैट अमर्त्य. बट एक क्वेश्चन मेरे दिमाग में तब से घूम रहा था कि हाउ डिड यू मीट योर को-फाउंडर?
Okay, so there's Entrepreneur First. So I would suggest people to join it. It's like a co-founder matching space. So I left my job. I joined Entrepreneur First. So Entrepreneur First runs its cohorts in US, Paris, London, India, and Singapore. India में Bangalore में होता है. So they selected 30 odd individuals. I would say कि मेरे में 27 से 28 लोग जो थे IITian थे, टॉप कॉलेजेस, ठीक है सर. 2 नॉन IITians थे जो मैं और मेरा फ्रेंड थे, साथ गए थे. And they fund you also a small, they fund you, they train you, they teach you. So that's where I met Chinmay. Chinmay was also there. It's a very good place to find a person, because everybody is an IITian. Everybody was doing something great in his life. Everybody left something. Not just IITian leave the tag, but everybody was doing something great. That's why they are here. So एक चीज़ तुम्हें क्लियर हो जाती है कि ये कुछ बड़ा छोड़ के आया है. लाइफ में ना सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम यही है, कभी कुछ शुरू करने जाओगे ना और अपने दोस्तों के साथ करने जाओगे तो एक बार ये फील होगा कि यार मेरे सारे दोस्त कंफर्टेबल हो चुके हैं ज़िंदगी में, किसी को छोड़ना नहीं है यार, मस्ती कर रहे हैं, लाइफ चिल चल रही है, सैटरडे संडेज एंजॉय कर रहे हैं, वीक डेज वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस अच्छा है, दे आर ट्रैवलिंग द वर्ल्ड हैप्पी. तो वो छोड़ने का कन्विक्शन ही नहीं है. यहाँ पे जो 30 लोग आए हैं, सब लोग कुछ लाइफ में बड़ा छोड़ के आए हैं. कोई गूगल छोड़ के आया है, कोई माइक्रोसॉफ्ट छोड़ के आया है, कोई कुछ छोड़ के आया है, कुछ करके आया है. करेक्ट? तो डेडिकेशन तो क्लैरिफाई हो गया. ओनली थिंग इज अब मेरे को ऐसा कोई बनना चाहिए जो मेरा वाइब मैच कर सके, जो प्रोडक्ट से मैच कर सके. प्रोडक्ट तो कुछ भी हो सकता है. So when I met Chinmay, we were not even sure what are we building. So we met, we brainstormed on the ideas, and we built this. In 3 months we built it. 3 months में इतना traction आया है. 3 months में we went from 0 users to right now 530, 550 odd users. 0 companies getting onboarded to 8 startups using it today, including some of the unicorns. From 0 money raised to more than $500,000 raised. Just because it gives you a very solid
अभी
co-founder.
इसका फ्यूचर क्या है, लाइक व्हाट आर योर फ्यूचर प्लान्स? अगर आप नेक्स्ट कुछ टाइम का बोले, ऑफ कोर्स 5 years would be a very long time to think of, but next 1 years में आप ऐसा क्या क्या लाने वाले हैं with the product? Because it feels like the product feels very addictive to me, like maybe I will be surely using that, and सुन के काफ़ी like unique लगा maybe, because कहीं ना कहीं हम हर वे में we try to solve this thing, like latency बहुत बड़ा इशू हो जाता है हर चीज़ में. if you are working with any streaming company, right, तो latency is something they want to reduce, like उनका पूरा फोकस रहता है. बट उसके अलावा आपका और क्या क्या विजन है that you want to achieve within say in 12 months?
Imagine a world where you're writing a piece of a code, and that piece of a code, उसमें you have insane visibility कि मुझे एक डैशबोर्ड पे पूरा दिख जाए, which is the current product too. It's an extension what I'm talking about. Imagine whatever you have written, you can see on a dashboard, like ये कोड में, ये फंक्शन में, ये लाइन पे, ये जो कॉल कर रहा हूँ ये गलत कर रहा हूँ, इसको मैं ऐसे करूँगा तो ये 10x फास्टर है, या 5x लेसर मेमोरी कंज्यूम करेगा, या 2x लेसर CPU थ्रेड्स कंज्यूम करेगा, ब्लॉकिंग कॉल नहीं है, ये नहीं है, वो नहीं है, प्लस उसको ऑटो फिक्सिंग दे दो. डेवलपर्स को क्या चाहिए कि तुम बताओ मत यार क्या करना है, तुम करके दिखाओ, और सही होना चाहिए, फटना नहीं चाहिए, मुझे मैनेजर से सुनना नहीं है, ठीक है. सो दैट इज वेरी शॉर्ट टर्म विजन. इफ आई हैव टू टॉक अ लॉन्ग टर्म विजन, long term vision is imagine a world where no code will ever have bad qualities, which is it is running slow, is having higher memory and CPU footprint, and missing very basic things like doxing, unit testing, type hinting, etc. These are the grunt works which will be automated for any developer so that they can focus on writing great logic either by themselves or using a code generation tool.
And how do
which is
you
there in the
think you
market.
will be like, you know, the plans to make it different? Because हम देखते हैं काफ़ी टाइम whenever like software that is for developers, तो सारे developer मिलकर they create a open source version of that. So अगर ऐसा होता है कि कुछ टाइम एक open source version इसका compatible version खड़ा हो जाता है, इस टाइप का अगर कुछ होता है, then how do you plan to resolve that?
So देखो ओपन सोर्स क्यों आता है? ओपन सोर्स का आने का सबसे बड़ा रीज़न है कि developers want to contribute, okay, but they're not able to see those features or contributions in your product today. That's the only reason. किसी को फर्क नहीं पड़ता यार क्यों. देखो कोई भी I myself I'm a developer still. I won't go and use an open source till the time I have a product जहाँ पे मेरे को सब कुछ मिल जाए free of cost. ठीक है, मेरा काम चल रहा हो, ठीक है. But obviously we are also thinking about open sourcing few of the stuff, because we have got a lot of inbound requests where people told us we want to contribute on this, we want to do this. So we are actually in the process of, in few weeks we'll be announcing that because that's ready in beta for us, what all projects we can open source so that we can get some great collaborators. Because the problem that we are solving is very deep tech. Even the engineers who are working with us, that's why we have a high engineering bar, क्योंकि ये simple B2B SaaS नहीं है. We have to play around with the semantics of a code. जब भी कोड लिखा जाता है ना, तो हर कोड का एक AST होता है. You can call it abstract syntax tree. Every code can be written in terms of modules, nodes, etc. ठीक है? Our work is to manipulate those at a bottom up level, understand the code flow कि कैसे कोड चल रहा है, ठीक है? And then make suggestions which are 100% accurate. So it's में learning बहुत ज़्यादा है, which people want. So we are also trying to open source few of the places where people can learn, and depending upon the traction that we are getting from there, we might open source the entire thing so that people can deploy, etc. So we have taken that in consideration, and companies also get trust on that, because companies को लगता है कि बहुत लोग contribute कर रहे हैं, and they can buy the entire managed version of this.
Makes sense.
For their internal use cases. But right now we have kept it entirely free for developers so that they can go play around, have fun with it, make sure all the grunt work is captured. They don't have to do it. Because I talk to developers, they're like, boss नहीं लिखना है मेरे को, तुरंत ठीक करके दो, नहीं चाहिए. तुम सोनार क्यूब यूज करते हो, सोनार क्यूब आपको रिपोजिटरी कनेक्ट किया 100 गलती बता देता है, ठीक किसी का नहीं देता. दैट टू लिंटिंग. तुम लिंटिंग बता रहे हो वार्निंग में तो ठीक करके भी दो, बताओ मत. और लिंटिंग इज वेरी मिनिमल, मतलब बॉटम रॉक है. उसके ऊपर 10 प्रॉब्लम्स और है जो सोनार दे ही नहीं रहा है, तो वो आपको देना है और डेवलपर्स को बताना है कि यहाँ ऐसे फिक्स करना है और एक पीआर में फिक्स.
So, like again, thanks a lot, Amartya. Like हम काफ़ी चीज़ें ट्राई किए कवर करने का, and you were a really great speaker coming by. So अगर आपको कुछ final thoughts share करना पड़े with anyone, say like be it people who are just stuck with their job maybe, जिनको डर है छोड़ने का, या फिर someone who is just starting out, जिनको वो है कीड़ा आप जैसा, या फिर आपका जो आप खुद का वर्जन है जब आप कॉलेज में आप like say like giving advice to yourself when you were 18-year-old वाला चीज़. तो any final advice, any final thoughts that you would like to share?
Never stop hustling. Hustle as much as you can. Make sure that you learn as much as you can. And never think that someone knows way more than you. That's never in life. Never think that I can't go up and talk to a VP of engineering about what I'm building. Absolutely, you can do that. Don't think about the hierarchical things in life. Don't think that you are there just to become SD1 से SD2, फिर SD2 से SD3, SD3 से lead बन जाऊंगा 4 साल में. Life will be good. That's small thoughts. Make sure that your hustle is so hard that you are actually creating product that you really want to see. ठीक है? And don't just start startup just because you want co-founder का tag, because trust me, it's the hardest thing that you can do. Your relationships will go for a toss. It can be anything, any relationship for that matter. Your personal life will go for a toss. Your monetary benefits that you're earning from your job will go for a toss. What is the one thing that you'll keep on going is the hustle. That you think that अगर ये हो जाता है ना, boss, none of these things will matter ever. So just keep hustling and don't think कि यार ये रिस्क बहुत बड़ा है. कैलकुलेट करो, थोड़ा सेव करो, ले लो. अगर लग रहा है सही टाइम है, सही लोग हैं, सही टाइम है, ले लो. ऐसा मत सोचो आज नहीं कल लूंगा, वो कल कभी नहीं आएगा. ट्रस्ट मी. ठीक है, आज ही टाइम है. जो बेस्ट टाइम था वो चला गया. Today is the next best time. Make most use of it.
But again, and I will be mentioning Amartya ka socials and Code and Tag majorly. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and also check out the product. All the links will be in the description. And thanks a lot for watching, and bye bye.